Morning, guys. How you doing this morning?
Doing great. How
Excellent.
about yourself?
Excellent. Doing well. Well, another exciting topic. We've got RJ Stevens from Friends of Commerce here again today, and then obviously Chris and I are here. Glad to meet with you guys all today again. Now, if you remember, we started a series on helping customers and clients digital ready for the digital transformation, right? So the webinar series is digital readiness, digital preparedness, whatever you want to call it, for businesses to help them get ready to make the digital transformation. In series one, we talked about acquisition, right? Build it and they will come. And we talked about how do you acquire and get them to come. Today, the important part is conversions. And we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about CRO, we'll talk about conversions and all that. Now, the example I like to give a lot, I do a lot with SEO, right? So I talk about how the difference between SEO and CRO, SEO, if I drove 1,000 people to come to a party to my house, but I did no prep and they showed up and I had no parking, no bathroom, no pizza, no beer, no music, it would just be an epic failure. And the negative press from that would be horrendous and nobody would ever come back. Right. Conversely, if RJ and I spent $20,000 and we got Oingo Boingo to come play and we got the local tavern to give us 5 kegs and 100 pizzas, and we put Chris in charge of inviting people and he invited 3 of his best friends, and that's all the people that showed up, then it's a terrible acquisition exercise, but the conversion would have been great. At least the conversion's great for 3 people, right? So there's got to be a match there. And I always tell my clients when I'm doing SEO, for every hour of SEO, I do an hour of CRO. Because if I'm going to invite people over for a party, I'm also going to make sure there's food, clean the house, and be prepped for said party, right? And so conversion is just as important as acquisition. You can't, right? You can't just build it and assume they'll come. That would be great conversion and no acquisition. So there's a good balance. So last time we talked about acquisition. This time we're going to talk about conversion. So I'm going to turn it over to RJ and let him kind of introduce the topic and talk about readiness and why conversion is so important to customers.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. And I think one thing for, especially for people maybe that are early in their digital journey, even just sort of a definition, right? CRO is conversion rate optimization. What are you doing to manage and track and improve conversion? If you're doing nothing, right, you got to do something. But how do you continue to evolve that? Because to Ron's point, first step is how do you get people to your party or to your store in this instance, or to your site? But then the conversion is how do you get them to take the action that you want when they're there? And that action could be different based on your type of company. Most of the time, people think of conversion as a purchase, and that certainly could be the case. It could be, finding, there's things like how quickly can they find the product they're interested in? That has to do with a bunch of things. One, it has to do with how are you presenting products? How are you presenting curated products to known people based on where they're coming from? Maybe you have search terms that are bringing them in, so you should promote certain type of products initially that they see that, oh my gosh, that is what I'm looking for. It could be, how does your on-site search function? How easy is it? Can they type something in your search bar, and how does that work? Could be something as simple as, how does the aesthetics of your site look? Right? Does it look like it's something that's engaging to them? And there's a lot of different pieces. There's really a science, there's an art and a science to conversion rate optimization, right? The science is some of the KPIs, the key performance indicators you're tracking, like how many people hit your site and bounce out. Why are they leaving? Where do they exit out of your site? Are they are they going to like some sort of form they need to fill out or something and then abandoning it? Or where in the process are they doing that? And then you can figure out why. And the other piece of that I'd say before I maybe kick it over to you, Chris, is, the thing that you have to think about in conversions, especially as you're looking at how you're getting your business sort of digitally ready for the future, is that a larger and larger percentage of your traffic is going to come from mobile. So it not only needs to be conversion optimized for desktop, but you've got to think mobile, and you've got a much smaller amount of real estate. So how are you going to do that? So we typically recommend that companies go with sort of a mobile first mentality, because if you could do it on mobile, you can easily expand it more and do it on desktop. So that's those are very high level pieces of this. Maybe Chris, I'll kick it over to you and get your perspective on, when you think of conversion rate optimization, what are those most important elements from your perspective?
Thanks, RJ. I think that's really important to talk about mobile, and that kind of segues into a key part of conversion rate optimization with, like you said, the analytics and the data and the speed. And I'll hit on these high level. I think there are, like you both said, really key points with speed of being able to see what the user is looking for. So this is kind of a different way of looking at speed, but the idea would be page performance. The page has to load before they can see anything. So the page performance, like if you're not operating your site in a way that you're getting 1 second or sub 1 second page load speed as a minimum threshold, you're probably not doing it right. If it's under 2 seconds, it's probably acceptable, but that's really how you should see it. And the Google Page Speed is a great tool to monitor this, and they provide some very candid feedback. It's not very fun a lot of times looking at that, but if you haven't used the Page Speed, the Google Web Dev tools, check them out. They're really easy to use. All you have to do is put a URL in, and you can see the page performance for a particular page. It's a really helpful litmus test. The other piece is the speed at which somebody can basically process what you're presenting to them. And does it click with what their need is? And I think that's a really key litmus test as well that a lot of folks don't focus on. Now, this can be challenging to sort of intuit out and do at scale across an entire site and all of the different niche offers and categories. So, one of the things that we recommend is deep dive analytics. Analytics can be really powerful because it's sort of the truth teller. With the art, you can also have that data science that backs up whether that artistic creative change that was made to get the point across and be really compelling and help them see that this is going to solve their pain. And it's going to do it in a way that's easy for them. It's got free shipping. We've got the turnaround time. We were showing the inventory. Maybe we're showing compelling imagery, and they see that it's easy to purchase this product. Those are all sort of the art part of it. The science with the analytics, we can actually look at how does changing the font size really matter for this particular feature? How does highlighting this with an icon that's even more clear give us better conversion? Those are the types of things that we want to really press on to improve conversion rate and really get that very high over time. A couple other things, and these are interesting thoughts for you to consider. Um, One of the outputs that we see constantly for clients is not just conversion rate optimization within a particular page, but also just within your whole marketing funnel. A lot of folks really have wheels on the car, but no steering wheel. And they're just like, man, this is really hard to steer this car whenever it gets going at speed. And it's because you're not necessarily using your entire funnel really well. So you can do things to really help supplement and drive performance on your site by getting drip campaigns, follow up, retargeting, and a number of other aspects of your marketing funnel to sort of feed back in. And what happens is when people have, 10, 12, 20, exposures to your brand and to your value, they come to the site ready to convert. They're actually ready to buy. Whereas if they just come to the site from an organic search or a paid search, and that's their only exposure, their likelihood to buy is much lower. So that's a really big piece of conversion rate optimization that I don't know that a lot of folks necessarily think about, is the entire funnel kind of feeding back into itself and driving those conversions as well. So I'm curious, Ron, if you want to share any thoughts or kind of emphasize any of those points.
Yeah, I've got some interesting statistics, and I wanted to touch base on one statistic that RJ talked about, the mobile. The last study that I read said that mobile searching for online shopping surpassed desktop back in 2015. So if you're not mobile first, you are way late to the game. Get in it, get there, and get there quick. That also led me into another thought. Chris and I just posted up on our channel. We posted a tech talk we did just a couple of weeks ago about e-commerce and navigation. And it was a big, huge study that said they took the top 133 online retailers in US and EU and did a deep dive evaluation study of their taxonomy and their navigation, right? And I think we haven't touched on navigation yet and conversion. And it talked about how every single one of them, just in the taxonomy and setting up just the category structure, 132 of them failed and only adidas.com got it right. And even when it came to overall experience, more than 44% rated poor or lower. So even just conversion, which brings me to two statistics I wanted to share. Chris and I have a scheduled TED Talk where we're going to really deep dive into searching and e-commerce. And two of the statistics for that one is historically it was free shipping and other things. Let's see, quality, price, and free shipping were the number three top factors that people for many, many years. And last year, the McKinsey study showed that availability and convenience to find the item surpassed those and are now more important. And furthermore, another Google study search shows that in their abandonment survey in the US alone, this isn't even global, bad online search experience cost retailers over 300 billion annually. Moreover, 77% of consumers who've experienced search difficulties in the past will likely never visit the site again. So RJ was just talking about search and finding what they have. So you imagine here's these people, they come to your website, they're searching for something, they don't find it immediately. 77% of them are gone forever. I mean, that is a travesty. So I just wanted to share a couple of statistics because there are some very important things. I mean, we talked so much last time about acquisition and getting the people to the site, and then they come to the site and have either a terrible experience or can't find what they're looking. More than 3/4 of them are never going to come back. So conversion isn't just worried about the funnel and are they going to buy? And RJ kind of said it a minute ago when he said, most people think about conversion as are they going to buy or not? For me, I'm worried about when they open the door, they're going to go, yep, nope, and shut the door and leave, right? They got to be able to come in. And what is open the door to them? Are they going to do a search? Are they going to look at the navigation? Are they going to see that homepage banner with promotions? You have to think about what is opening the door for whoever's coming to your site. And that's the first conversion. And Chris mentioned it a second ago about going down the funnel. That's it, right? The funnel is we got to guide them as soon as they open the door to where hopefully the end of that funnel is the purchase, right? But there are numerous steps to guide them down that funnel. It's a long hallway, right? So when they come to the site, we have to make sure that the site design is welcoming. One of my favorite quotes, Rosabeth Moss Cantor, she's one of the top 20 businesswomen in the world, a Harvard professor, published over 23 books on business. She did a study at Harvard and I think with Mellon or Carnegie. Anyway, it said within 50 milliseconds of visiting a page, a visitor has already made a subconscious decision at the professionality of your site. So even the design itself and just the aesthetics of the page have to be inviting, right? If I open up the door to that party to Ron's house and the house is just a mess in the front because I prepped the backyard, they're not going to want to go through the house, that messy house. They're immediately thinking that I'm sloppy and the party's going to suck and they're going to turn around and walk out, right? So,
and Ron, I want to jump in. I'm having to hold myself back here. So this is really interesting when you get into the pragmatic reality for business owners, operators, marketing directors. You've got a lot of content on a site, and you've got to be able to update that to meet these standards that we're talking about. One of the things that works really well for this is to look at your traffic that's going to these key pages on your site, whether it's organic or paid or folks revisiting the site. You can get at the data and essentially create almost like a war room within your marketing team to focus on this consistently. And that's one of the most powerful things that you can do is build this consistent thought process that we're not just going to go and do this and really press on it and then be done. This is going to be a continual process that we're going to engage in, invest in. it's the lifeline of the business. It's the lifeblood of the, the new revenue that's coming in for the company, right? And so
Yep.
one of the things that can be really helpful for this is to get the team that you're working with, whether it's internal or external team members as well, but just get everyone into a rigorous process where, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, we're going through the numbers and we're looking at the most important pieces of content, the most important products and pages that we need to really focus on and work our way through. I think the analogy that you gave with the house is great. Like, clean up the entryway and clean up the backyard where the party's going to be, but maybe leave some of the garage in the attic. We don't need to clean that out right now.
Right.
And we can get to that over time. And so I think that really helps make it realistic for people, to really understand, focusing on the high priority pages and pieces of content and templates, parts of the templates that will apply to the whole site in mass.
Yeah.
It can be a really powerful exercise and kind of get you in that momentum of seeing progress and having an upward spiral that you're all working against.
And
So,
Chris,
any
Yeah.
thoughts on that, RJ, that you want to chime in?
yeah, building on, I love that analogy too. But for me, one thing I want to say is those folks out there in the B2B world that are thinking, oh, well, that's a B2C thing. That is not just
Yeah.
a B2C thing. This is B2B as well. And my mind goes with this analogy as you go in the house, and all of a sudden you see that it's got shag carpeting and the kitchen's in seafoam green and the bathroom is a pink. You're like, oh my God, this is like the 70s. And like, someone goes to your site and it looks like a site from the 90s or the 2000s, they're going to, that 50 millisecond thing, they're gonna like, this isn't going to be easy for me. This is not, they're going to have that impression that
Yeah.
this experience is not going to be good. It's going to be difficult to find. This isn't a modern company. And as the buyer demographic continues to change to younger and younger folks, that expectation is innate. It is there. So it doesn't mean it has to be some fancy thing. It just has to be clean. It has to be efficient. It has to be welcoming. And so that is now becoming as important on B2B as it has been for a while on B2C. So, it is applicable across the board.
I had a question for RJ I wanted him to touch on because I know this is something your company specializes in. When you do the projects, I know that the long-term maintenance and planning for conversion is a significant part of the planning before you even start the project. So I'd like you to talk briefly, because I've heard how you talk about how during your initial planning phase, you're planning for that ongoing. How do we keep continuing to improve and address that? So I'd love you to address that.
Well, and it kind of goes back to even what Chris was talking about. Okay, maybe we won't do the garage, maybe we won't do the attic, maybe there's like it's a prioritization, right? That the way that software used to be done, where it was this big bang, hey, somebody goes away for a year and comes back, here's your site, here's everything. That doesn't work
Right.
anymore because most of the times it doesn't line up, right? So it's about figuring out what's most impactful initially, and that a lot of times can be some pieces of functionality. Maybe it's a loyalty program, maybe it's how you're using reviews, maybe it's a sort of a comparison component on the site to make it easy. Like, there's things that are good to have and are going to be helpful, but maybe they're not something you have to start with. So how do you identify where the biggest pieces are to begin with and launch that, and then start to gather data like Chris was talking about, and look at performance, look at conversion, look at how the user journey is working or not working, fix those things, and then go, okay, now we're ready to layer in the next wave of components that we know. So it's not this massive mountain you need to climb in one huge leap. It's a journey.
Right.
Figure out where is camp 1 and camp 2 and camp 3 as you're climbing this mountain, and how are you judging how you're doing and putting that plan together, and starting with that to begin with, at least in sort of a rough manner, because you make sure you're not taking a journey up the mountain that's going to end at a cliff. You need to make sure you can get all the way to the top. And the way to do that is to have, a reasonable place to start with, and then adjust as you go. So that would be, again, working with your partners to sort of have a blueprint or a map that is going to take you the way that you're going to adjust over time. And I know that that's more of a general statement than a specific, but it's going to be adaptable to whomever the project is. And is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it B2B and B2C? Is it in this market or that market? What the integration and data pieces? What are the core ones and what do you need later? What are your expansion goals? There's a bunch of things that you would want to go through and identify to sort of get that blueprint.
Well said. And speaking of partners, I don't know, Ron, if you want to add anything before we wrap up, but I was just going to say one of the things that we really want to encourage folks to think about is that this is a overwhelming process for most people, and that's where they stop. Just the fact that it's overwhelming. And, this is what we focus on all day, every day, and we love it. And so we would love to help you put that plan together, whether you end up working with us or not. We all, both Friends of Commerce and Clarity team, we collaborate and we put plans together for clients, whether they end up being a good fit with our team or not. We're happy to provide that complimentary. And we have a lot of great resources on these topics. So we just encourage you to take an action of putting a plan together and prioritizing. If you at least do that, it will help you get to the next step. And most of the time, just like with any kind of discipline or habit, once you kind of get engaged in the process and you start to see the benefits of it, it becomes this self-fulfilling thing. And it basically is an upward spiral. So if you're ready to start your journey on that upward spiral, we encourage you to reach out to us. Ron, if you want to close us out with anything as well on that.
Yeah, we'll do another webinar on it, but I was going to talk about how AI now can help change the journey of conversion because it can do the personalization and help change the funnel in real time on the site too. So that one is a topic that we could not cover in this one because in and of itself is going to have to be another one. But again, thanks for coming. Thanks, RJ, for joining us today. And bye for now.
Bye for now.